So, welcome to Conversations with Your Nurse Advocates Consulting. My name is Pam Dunwald, and this is Linda Criticus, and we're your nurse advocates. So, we're going to talk a little bit about a crisis situation. Let's think about this for a minute. It's 2:00 in the morning. You get that phone call that we hate to get in the middle of the night because we know that's never good news. Your mom calls and says your father's fallen. I don't know if he's okay or not. I don't know what to do. You get that sick feeling in your stomach. You live 10 hours away from home. Your dad's panicking. Your mom's panicking, and you don't know what to do. And, this is something that none of us really, want to think about happening. But as our parents get older, this becomes more and more and more of a reality. And oftentimes it's not, if it happens, it's when it happens. So Linda and I are going to spend some time talking a little bit about how to prepare, how we can help you prepare for a crisis, and some of the things that you'd want to have in place for this to go as smoothly as possible, as smoothly as any crisis can occur. Linda, did you have any words to get us started here?
Just that it's a very scary thing. I've had a couple of those phone calls in the middle of the night, and it's even if we can prepare, but sometimes our parents are just immensely stubborn and just don't, or our loved ones, and they just don't want to listen. But we have to do the best we can to get them prepared, because in an emergency or in a crisis, we have to be able to act reasonably, rationally, and make good decisions, and to hopefully gain the best outcomes of care.
And, the first thing we want to point you to for a resource is we just recently released a new blog post this week, and it has the same, topic. When your parents are up against a health crisis, what do you do and how do you handle that? So you can just go to our website. It's just yournurseadvocateconsulting.com, and just click on the blog tab, and you can access that video. Access that blog post, and we've got some resources there. We've got some steps, what you can do to prepare. And we're going to talk a little bit about those things tonight. So most importantly, as best you can plan for an emergency is you might want to make sure that your parents have, a to-go packet, so to speak. And, what you'd want to have in that packet, especially if one of your parents is not able to express their wishes, is you want to have a folder ready to go to the hospital with advance directives or a living will. You want to make sure you have your, excuse me, your insurance information, Medicare cards, also current medication list with allergies, and also the name and the clinic and the phone number of your doctor. So this should be all, ready to go so that you can, in this emergency, if an ambulance is called, you can just remember to grab that folder or send that folder, with your parent. And that would be one of the things that you can do to help prepare and make it easier for the emergency room to be able to initiate their care properly. Linda, is there anything you want to add into that?
It's really important that your parent also remembers where they keep that. If one of the parent is got dementia, or if they're not a good historian, and in an emergency, a lot of times we forget the simplest things. So it's really important that they know where it's kept, or it's kept in a place that's easily accessible to EMS. But one of the things that's really, really that I found, that even though I planned very well for my parents and the issues, a lot of times they, when I got that phone call, the front door was locked and EMS couldn't access it, or they couldn't find the insurance card that was in the packet because somebody moved it and it fell out, or the cell phone forgot to be taken with, and put into a coat pocket so that they can contact someone once they get to the ER. A lot of times, if your parent is ending up in this crisis situation and is the primary caregiver for the other parent, then the situation becomes even more serious, because now what happens when that primary caregiver ends up in the emergency room and possibly admitted to the hospital, and the person that they're caring for is left alone, who really shouldn't or can't be left alone. Those are other things that need to be thought through and prepared for.
And that's a good point, because that's one of the things that as nurse advocates, we could help you with in that situation where you have one of your parents as a primary caregiver of the other parent. And in this situation where the caregiver gets admitted to the hospital, it's good to have a plan B, for some kind of emergency, which could be, a lot of people don't understand that nursing homes or assisted livings, they have respite, plans they have programs that they have that you could meet with them, ask, maybe tour them, look at what's in your community, who you're familiar with. This is something that we could help you vet them and find out, some quality facilities in your area, but find out how their respite programs work. What do they need from you that you can prepare ahead of time? So if you need to initiate or activate this respite plan, that you'll have everything in place. So, it's again, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So, just really, really take the time no one likes to think that these things are going to happen, but unfortunately, as our parents age, at some point in time, it will happen. So it's best to take the time, even though we don't want to think about it now, it's best to take the time, to prepare so that it's not, as big of a crisis as it can be when these situations happen.
Yeah, I had a patient that the daughter was not made aware that her mom was placed in the hospital until 3 days after she was there, because she lived alone and her daughter was in another state, and her mom went in 911 to the emergency room after a bad fall. And she actually had laid there for about 12 hours before she was found. And it only was by happenstance that she was found by one of the neighbors who called 911. And but the daughter was not, because of her state of instability and her medical issues, the daughter was not called, they weren't able to reach the daughter for almost 3 days. So here this mom was without her support system of her daughter, and the daughter knew nothing about what was going on with her mom. And the daughter then needed to make emergency plans to get out there to help and find out what was going on with her mom. We as advocates can put plans in place so that you have not only plan A when something like this happens, especially since our society is so mobile and we have children that live in multiple states or even out of the country, but we can help you with that plan A, that plan B, that plan C, and those multiple scenarios. Now we can't foresee millions of different scenarios that could happen, but the plan is a workable plan and can be utilized with multiple scenarios. It's just getting the basic foundational tools in place so that when emergencies or crises happen, or when you get that phone call, you know how to react, and your parents know how to react and what to do.
And Linda's absolutely right. We can't prevent the crisis or the emergencies, but we can surely make sure that you're as prepared as possible. And one of the other things to do in a situation like this is rally the troops, get a hold of your siblings. I mean, this would be an all hands on deck, situation, so that you collectively as a family can figure things out. And, Linda and I, we also have a course available. The registration is closed right now. The course is not on, but the information's available on our website, as well as that we do a whole program on how to put a plan in place with your siblings to care for your aging parents. And all these things are covered, where Lynn and I work with you one-on-one very closely and in small groups to put plans together specifically for your family. So yeah, reach out to your siblings. Don't feel that you need to handle this all on your own.
Yeah, let me just share a little example of how important that is. I had a client who, they were an elderly couple that lived together in their home. And the gentleman or the man, he is the primary caregiver for his wife, who is hard of hearing, very, very hard of hearing, and is also got a large amount of cataracts. So her vision is very much impaired. And she was recently hospitalized and had rehabilitation for fractures and wounds. So he is the primary caregiver for her. He also has his own health conditions, and he has a Foley catheter in place. And what happened was, how we actually got involved in this is that one of the daughters got a call at about 2:00 in the morning saying, I have a really big problem. There's blood everywhere. There's blood everywhere. I don't know what's going on. There's blood everywhere. Everything is wrong. There's blood. I don't know what to do. This is a problem. And the daughter is 2 states away. The daughter doesn't, she says, well, call 911. Well, I don't want to call 911. I don't want to bother them. But you're telling me you're bleeding. You're telling me there's blood everywhere. I said, she asked about his Foley. She asked about things. He couldn't really tell her. And the mother wasn't any help because she was sleeping, didn't even know what was going on. And because she's hard of hearing, had no idea. So he finally ended up calling 911, but 911 couldn't get in the door because the door had multiple locks on it. And he was too freaked out about the blood to open the door. So they were pounding on the door until finally the wife got up and heard the door and was totally unaware of what was going on. And then she started freaking out and didn't know what to do. So she started calling people, because she didn't know where to go. And the paramedics are trying to get in the door, and they finally get in and take him. And she doesn't know where they're taking him because she can't hear them. So she has no idea what to tell her children of where they're taking their father. And he, on top of it, forgets to bring his cell phone with so that he can call anybody to tell him where he's going. And he forgets his insurance card and his wallet. And he has no shoes on his feet or anything. He has no idea what's going on. Gets in the ambulance, they get to a hospital, and it's total chaos. Total chaos. Total chaos.
You guys got power?
Total chaos. Total chaos. Hold on one second. Christy, I'm on
while Linda is talking, while Linda's talking about that, we can hear Christy's. Are you ready to go on with your story, Linda?
Yes. So needless to say, I'm so sorry that happened, but apparently there's more storms hitting us and more tornadoes, and my daughter was calling to make sure I was safe, which is nice, which is a really nice thing. But yes, so this individual went to a hospital and had no way of contacting his family. The poor woman was left alone, and really shouldn't be left alone because of her issues with her wounds and her ability to function and her hearing and her vision loss. And he was worried because now she's being left alone in the middle of the night. He's afraid she's going to fall. He doesn't know what to do. So the daughter, who knows me, picks up the phone and calls me in the middle of the night and says, I don't know what to do about this. This is total chaos. I cannot handle this. What do I do? So first I calmed her down. I asked her to walk me through what was going on. I told her what she needed to do about finding out where her dad was and finding out, what was going on with his healthcare and what emergency room he was in. And then had her call one of the siblings to go over there and stay with the mom. But she was so distraught that she couldn't think through the process. So we ended up having to, meet the next day after he came home from the ER and things settled down a bit. and had to walk through and develop a plan of what to do in case this happened again. And it's not if it happens again, when it will happen again. So things were put in place to prepare her on how to handle this in case this happened again. And a plan was put in place so that when paramedics were called again, they knew where to go. There was a big red folder saying EMS, for EMS only, and it's got, you know, the medication list. It's got everything in it that they would need for that, and the daughter's emergency number, how to contact her. So, but it was a very scary situation, and it could have ended up a lot worse. But, you know, she did not think that this would happen to her parental unit. She thought that this was something that was years out, and that, you know, they would know what to do in that situation because they were her parents. But that's not necessarily what happens. So you need to make sure that even though you may not think these things can happen, this can happen at any point in time to anyone, to yourself, to your loved ones, to your family. And the older our parents get, the higher the risk is for these things occurring, and occurring more frequently and unexpectedly, especially if they're going down steps to do laundry, or, you know, walking a distance to go take the garbage out, or having to shovel snow, or having to go to the grocery store. Anything can happen to
even
any of us
walking,
at any point in time.
yeah, even walking down their driveway to the mailbox. I mean,
Exactly, exactly. Mhm.
you know, before we close, I just wanted to mention two other things, and also to get Linda's feedback on these. Number one, you know, a lot of people aren't sure about what FMLA is, or Family Medical Leave Act. And if you were to, you know, an emergency, if something were to happen to your parent and, you know, you didn't have any plans in place, I mean, it's a federal act that you're allowed up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave time, but yet have your job protected in order for you to, you know, be home or be off for a serious illness for yourself or for the care of a family member. So that's one of the resources that's available in case you're in a situation where you just need some time to be able to put these things in place, and you have to assume some care. Second thing I wanted to bring up, Linda, first of all, was there anything you wanted to mention about FMLA?
No, actually, it's something that every individual should talk to their employer about, you know, and look at where their eligibility is in regards to FMLA. But it's something that will work in their favor if, you know, if and when the time comes for these types of things.
The last thing I want to mention is, you know, in the hospital and what we see in the emergency room, unfortunately, more often than we would hope, sometimes a family gets to a point where the care for their aging parent or their family member or their aging spouse gets to be too much. And something happens that just the straw breaks the camel's back. And they call the clinic, or they call their Medicaid worker, they call someone and they say, you know what, just take them to the emergency room and they'll have to admit them and they'll find placement for them. Well, that's really can be horrible information. Now, of course, if there's some kind of a medical condition or a fall with an injury, if there's some reason the patient needs to be medically treated and that they need that treatment cannot be provided in the emergency room, and they are brought to the med surg or the acute care unit, if it is custodial care only, that is not going to be covered by Medicare. That is not going to be covered by the insurance company or your Medicare Advantage plan. Custodial care, like just keeping someone in the hospital because they have to find placement for them to a nursing home or assisted living, and they're not providing any medical treatment to treat anything, is not covered. And you will be asked, or your parent will be asked to sign a form, a non-coverage form stating that if they are wanting to be admitted to the hospital, that it will be private pay. It will be on their dime. So something like this, not being prepared or having that plan B could be very costly, because you may be in a situation where you can't, for some reason, they can't go home, but they can't have Medicare. The insurance is not going to pay for them to sit in the hospital because they don't have a safe place to go. And a lot of people don't understand that that is not covered. So all the more reason to have these plans in place that Linda and I can help you with, because that could be a financial disaster too for your parents or for your family, if indeed something like that happens and you you know that those services won't be covered. Linda, is there anything you wanted to add to
Yeah,
that?
even and in adding to that, a lot of times if they're, their turn, they'll what they do is they'll treat them or see that they don't have any medical need, and they won't even bring them in under even a private pay. They will send them back home and tell them to contact, give them a list of homes that contact or assisted livings that the family, they won't even there. Is the issue that happens, that individuals who are being sent there because, well, they'll place them. It's not how it happens in this world of our healthcare today. That responsibility lies with that patient or their significant other and or the family, and if they have a caseworker externally along with that caseworker. It is not necessarily the hospital's responsibility unless there is a medical management or emergent issue that needs medical care to treat it. They are not going to, you cannot utilize that as a respite arrangement because you're burnt out.
And our social workers, I can only speak from our hospital as an example, but our social workers, they get called for these situations. They go down in the emergency room. They try their best to, possibly get them placed out of the emergency room if possible. But especially since the pandemic, nursing homes are full. There are not a lot of beds available. Chances are that may not happen. And you might have to be prepared to take your loved one back home again until they continue to work on placement to assist you with that. So
right. And that's where we can come in and help put that plan in place, help with those resources, and help get that plan in order so that your loved one can get the quality of care and the quality of life that they deserve, and that you can then be the son, the daughter, the family member, the significant other, instead of the primary caregiver that's worried that the care that you're giving is not enough and they need more.
and we've covered a lot. So I think we've given you a lot of food for thought. Again, check out the blog post. That's going to have a lot of what we talked about in writing, so you can refer back to that. There's a couple of checklists that's available. If you feel comfortable just giving us your email address, we've got a nice checklist that goes over 11 signs that your aging parents may need help in the home. So we've got some resources for you. Also, this is being recorded, so we will put it up on our YouTube channel, and that's just Your Nurse Advocate Consulting on YouTube. So you'll be able to go watch this again, either on Facebook, on our Facebook page, or on YouTube. So with that being said, we're going to say thanks for joining us for Conversations with Your Nurse Advocates, and we'll see you next Wednesday. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.